What's the funniest or the most silly conspiracy theory you've ever heard of?
Me.
Can you elaborate, please? What does that mean?
That I'm an actor, that I'm a paid psyop,
Ah,
that I'm this
okay,
psyop,
of
and
course.
I'm a conspiracy. I am become conspiracy, and
A
it's
crisis
the
actor,
funniest thing
Brentley.
to me. It is. And every time someone says it to me, it convinces me or solidifies that idea in me that yes, conspiracy theories are, well, conspiracism is bullshit.
Brentley is an ex-conspiracy theorist of 15 years and host of the Some Dare Call It Conspiracy podcast, through which he's trying to help people who are still caught up in these beliefs. Brent, welcome to Smart Cookies. How's everything?
Everything's great. Thank you very much for having me. Been looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah. I believe it was about 2 months ago when I read the article about you in Guardian and
That's
was
right. Yeah, the Guardian
immediately,
article.
yeah. I was immediately struck by your story because we usually hear about conspiracy theories from people on the internet who are trying to convert you a little bit, or from people in our lives who are heavily involved, or from various experts who are kind of studying conspiracy theories in a professional capacity. But it's incredibly rare to hear from someone who's been a part of that world and for so long, but has managed to kind of pull himself out of this. What, at least from the outside, seems like, I don't know, a pit of pretty terrifying quicksand or something. I don't know. Sounds like a superhuman feat, honestly, to do that. And not only that, you've shifted gears even further and are now trying to get others out of Mordor, probably at great personal cost, no? Which we will discuss later on as well.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Sure.
you probably already know what I'm going to ask you first. The year is 2003. You're 24 years
Yeah.
old, I believe, living in England. You're working in a garage and you're really into music. You're a sharp and articulated young man who's also really savvy when it comes to the internet. So far, it sounds like a pretty quote unquote normal life of a young person. However, 2003 is also the year when you stumble on a collection of, I believe it was 9/11 conspiracy videos that kind of make you question, let's say, the presentation of the world as you knew it. Do you still remember that moment or that feeling?
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember even downloading the videos, like going back and just actually retrospectively see myself downloading those videos. But I really remember like watching them. I remember watching the first one, and it was like more about Freemasons and like a Illuminati kind of secret societies taking over, well, being the hidden hand in history.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't really buy any of that at the beginning, but I remember seeing the first like 9/11 videos and just thinking, wow, hold on, what is this? Like, this is quite a compelling argument and quite a compelling presentation of facts. I was pretty much sold on the first 9/11 one I saw. I thought, right, I'm looking into this looks like it has something to it. This looks like there's some legs on there.
So it wasn't like some sort of sliding into this conspiracy mindset that was gradual, like stuff just piling on until you didn't even realize you're in it. It was more of a sudden eureka moment that shook you to the core.
It was with the 9/11 thing.
Yeah.
And I looked into 9/11 for quite a while before I started to think about like, well, who are these people? And other documentaries that you would watch would kind of try and tell you who they were, and it would like feed back into the secret society, Illuminati, Freemason sort of conspiracy theories. So that's, I think, where the rabbit hole really started to unfold for me. That's where I really the things started to pile on top of each other. like 9/11 is the gateway, and then the secret societies are who's actually involved with this false flag. Like, that's where it just gets bigger. I mean, you can break it down to like three types of conspiracies. Um, the event conspiracy, you
So
know,
that's
so
9/11.
9/11 is the
Yeah.
event. Yeah, exactly. And then you have like the systemic conspiracies, sort of systemic conspiracy theories. So it's like a government is involved in something. And then you have like the grand conspiracy, which is like where I eventually ended up. And I think it's a sliding scale, and it gets more and more of a pylon as you go down to
Wow,
that scale.
that's fascinating. So even though you were exposed to the, what did you call it, the structural conspiracy? What's the last one? The last stage?
The last one's the grand conspiracy, but
The grand conspiracy.
the second one, like more like the systemic
Yeah, yeah. But
conspiracy.
you said that when you downloaded those videos, it was the first was the grand conspiracy, the first thing that
Yeah,
you saw, the hand that controls the world. But that wasn't the hook for you. The hook was the event.
yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think it just really struck me. Like, um, again, like you set it up with, you know, it's 2003 and we're on the brink of like the Gulf War in war with Iraq, and Bush and Blair are both basically lying about weapons of mass destruction. And the lie is very blatant, and everyone pretty much around the world is saying, no, this is a lie. The UN, like, they voted against the war because they thought this was a lie. And, like, the people that were presenting the 9/11 stuff were presenting it as if this was the pretext to go to war. This is what they like made it happen so that they could do it. You know, they're lying about weapons of mass destruction. Of course, that they're lying about 9/11, and it just made sense. Oh yeah, they are total liars, and they're going to go and kill more people. So why wouldn't have they just have killed their own people to go to do this? You know, it just, I can't put it any other way other than it just made
Hmm.
sense.
I mean, that was an actual conspiracy, right? They were lying
Yeah,
about weapons of mass destruction that they knew weren't there in Iraq. But it was a conspiracy that then fell apart in front of our eyes because we all realized that they were lying about that, and that a lot of
yeah,
media, mainstream media, was complicit in it in a way, like the New York Times, I remember. So it makes sense that you go from this to the next stage. Have you met a lot of people in that life whose paths into conspiracy were similar to yours?
oh yeah,
That they
like,
started with 9/11 and then it went
oh,
further.
totally. A lot of people who, like, first started to speak to and were friends with for, say, the first decade of conspiracism, like that whole era was like birthed by 9/11 trutherism. 9/11 was like the truth gateway for so many people. Um, and like today, the pandemic
Yeah.
is another like gateway. It's become another like 9/11. And it seems to be like moments like this that something happens where the world stops and people all like are trying to figure out what just happened. It's like perfect little breeding ground for the rumor mill to create conspiracy theories.
Hmm.
And so 9/11 was definitely that for a lot of people. In up until, like, I guess maybe the next big event was 2008, which was End Occupy Wall
And
Street.
Occupy Wall Street, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was like the next big one. That's that kind of red pill moment after 9/11. So all the people from 9/11 to Occupy Wall Street would have been like 9/11 truthers. And after that, it was that. And say 2012, you kind of start getting the Sandy Hook and Boston Marathon sort of truthers, false flag stuff. Like that's a big red pill moment for the community. There's definitely events that become like that red pill moment for lots of people.
In one of your videos, you said that your father was a Vietnam veteran who suffered from severe PTSD and alcoholism and was abusive, which made you become a radical pacifist. This in turn probably also made you more susceptible to look for any sort of reasons as to why wars keep happening, right? Which is really
Totally.
sort of tragic because you were coming from a good place. In fact, listening to people who subscribe to conspiracy ideologies, it seems they're often quite rightly bothered by injustice, but then they make a really sharp left turn when it comes to actual causes of a sad injustice. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like, for me, with 9/11, with 7/7, the London bombing in 2005, like, I thought I was uncovering a crime. That's what we all were thinking. We were uncovering crimes against humanity and this secret plan to, like, enslave humanity, essentially. Like, we're trying to tell you guys about it. Like, that's definitely coming from a good place. But the evidence that we have, like, couldn't really convince a jury of a crime actually being committed, to be fair.
Why do you think this sharp left turn happens instead of adopting a more, I don't know, critical distance approach and being like, maybe things are a little bit more nuanced and messy than that, than immediately saying that there's some sort of hidden cabal controlling the world? What do you think that is? Is it an emotional thing? Is it maybe it's about timing as well? About 6 months ago, I hosted journalist Mike Rothschild on the
Oh,
pod.
great.
I
Yeah.
do urge our listeners to go and check out that episode. He was great. He's a really smart dude who wrote a famous book on the QAnon conspiracy. I believe it's called The Storm is Upon Us. Anyway, he said that even though a lot of conspiracy theorists are obviously super pissed off with him and are regularly, kind of threatening him, he felt a degree of empathy towards them because he found that most of them turned to conspiracies after experiencing a heavy dose of trauma in their lives. And they were looking for someone or something that would explain it.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of just what I was saying about 9/11 happening. That was a shocking moment for so many people. Like, so many people around the world watched that live. And then to sit there and think, okay, I just watched 3,000 people die in front of my eyes, watching those buildings come down. Do you know what I mean? That's traumatic for people. And growing up for the next 10 years living in the war on terror, like, so many people in the West thinking that, like, one of our cities could be bombed any minute. I think that's quite a bit of trauma. Again, a breeding ground for conspiracism. And right now, like, we've got, again, the pandemic. So many people were affected by it. So many people did lose their jobs. They lost their businesses. Lots of small business owners lost their businesses. Quite a few people did suffer around the world, and it did hit them. A lot of people obviously died from it, and family members are traumatized by that. Like, I think, I totally agree with that take, but sometimes it's bigger than, like, a personal trauma.
What effect did your conversion, if we can call it that, have on your personal life? What happened to your friendships, romantic relationships, family, etc.?
Yeah, I had quite a few friends at the time. I was in a band, and quite popular band in the city that we were in.
What kind
So
of
we had
music?
lots of friends. Our band was a ska rap metal band.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great. It was lots of fun.
Awesome.
I was the lead singer. I basically rapped and screamed all
Was
the
it
time.
like a new metal thing, or no? Is that different? Like
Yeah,
Limp
it was like
Bizkit and
that,
all
but it was like that, but with, like, ska rap metal. It was
Okay,
like,
wow. How
because we love
specific is
ska
that?
punk, right? So we like ska
Yeah.
punk. So we thought, hey, let's mix up, like, dub dub bass lines, but play them with metal riffs instead, and like try and mix like
Damn,
ska, rap,
what a
and
sassy
metal all
hybrid.
together.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
great.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I had, plenty of friends from the other bands that were in the city that we all played with. But yeah, when I started getting into this, like I would want to speak to people about it, and to be fair, no one really wanted to talk about it or found that it was that interesting. So I personally started to stay home more. Like I isolated like myself essentially from the scene. I didn't go out to like any of the house parties or any of the after gigs or anything like that. Um, I just pulled away, to be honest, because I just wanted to know more about this stuff, and this was like the most important thing to me. Again, we had uncovered a crime, like the biggest crime going on, and if we could tell everyone about it, like we could wake everyone up, and we could all be free, essentially. So I was just really, I was hyper focused and consumed by looking into this stuff. And I'd spend hours just reading or watching or listening to content.
Were there some friends, some people in your life who were close to you who kind of noticed that you were disappearing into this world and tried to maybe argue with you or pull you back in some sort of way? Or
Not
did people just leave
really.
you kind of alone, when that
Yeah,
started happening?
yeah. To
What
be
was the
fair,
dynamic like?
they left me alone. There was one friend I had, Richard. Like, love Richard. He's great,
Hell yeah, let's go,
and
Richard.
and he wouldn't like talk about, say, the conspiracy government sort of stuff. But when I started getting into like the much more weird pseudoscience sort of aspects, he would step in then, because he's like a scientist, and he loved to like help educate me on some of that stuff. So it kind of gave me a good, I don't know, a bit of a good defense to some of the more weirder aspects of like pseudoscience slash conspiracism, like the flat Earth kind of thing. Like that's all wrapped up in conspiracism, but it's like all based on pseudoscience. Yeah, he gave me a good defense to some of that stuff, because he would like challenge me, or not challenge me, just be like, hey, that's not how it really works. And I would stop and listen to him, because I know he was a scientist and he's super damn smart. So I was like, cool, you tell me, Richard. He was a keyboardist in our band. So, we talk about it, and he'd school me. It was cool.
So Richard acted as this kind of final barrier that prevented you from going all out on some of the more wild. So you, in a way, even though you're part of this world, you still were on the more skeptical side of the conspiracy theory
Yeah,
world,
because
or
there's a lot of topics in the conspiracy world.
yeah, I've noticed.
There's so much. Like, he obviously, like everyone knows the inverted pyramid of all the conspiracies by Abby Richards, and it's just got tons and tons of them in it. But that's true. That's the conspirasphere. There's so much of it, and I think you kind of, as you're going down the rabbit hole and coming across all these different paths, you kind of have to start getting an opinion on quite a few of them. So, like, even like UFOs, there's about 700 different reasonings for these things, and you kind of got to pick one, what you think it is, you know. Um, there are so many, and you just got to navigate all of them by coming up with your own opinion on them. I think that's the whole thing about, do your research, do your own research. And it's that trap where it's like, it is cult-like, go find your own truth, but you're still wrapped in the rabbit hole. And ironically, there's no light down a rabbit hole when you're looking for it. That's down in a tunnel.
So the more you look, the more in it you are, in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. You just keep going further and further down.
Back to your social life, you probably got new friends though once you started to become a part of this scene, right? How does that
Yeah,
work?
started to build
The community within the conspiracy theory world.
the first people I started to talk to were the people that I was downloading the material off of in the first place. We were on DC++, and that's like a file sharing app from way back in the day, 2003.
Is it like Kazaa? I used to have that. Okay,
it's
okay,
very similar to that.
Right.
So you connect to other computers and can
Yeah.
download like the shared file, just like
And
that. But you could have
that old modem, like
oh yes,
that thing with that. So it took you
I had
like
that running
72
all the
hours to
time.
download one 5-minute video.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
I remember those days.
I'd
I
have
miss
that
them
running
sometimes.
all night.
Right.
But yeah, you could have separate hubs on there, so it's like private rooms. And I messaged a guy that had lots of these videos, and I was like, "Hey, where can I like find more of this stuff?" And he invited me to a different hub, and on that hub, you had like a chat room, and you could download all their stuff. So on that chat room, I started talking to people, just kind of discussing some of the videos, or what do you guys think of this, or what do you think of that, and just kind of random chats about that. But by 2005, I thought I really need to like find more people to talk to. So I kind of started scouring for forums, and I found a David Icke forum.
That's the reptilian guy, right?
That is the reptilian guy, yeah.
Yeah.
So I joined there, and I started talking to people on there, and I found out quickly that not everyone on there like believed everything that David Icke would say.
Mm-hmm.
It was just
interesting,
a place for us all to kind of discuss all this stuff, you know, and that's kind of where I first start speaking to people, kind of making friends, but not IRL friends, not like you met up in real life or anything. Later on, I would meet normal people or meet other truthers in real life. But then from the forum, we moved to MySpace, and that's really where the communities first really started to kick
really
off.
On MySpace.
Yes,
because I remember it more as like space for sharing music and showing off kind of your taste, because you designed your own page. And
yeah,
it's taking me back now. I'm flooded by memories. But it's really interesting that
MySpace.
Yeah, let's just go back.
Come back, Tom. Or Tom, buy Twitter, please.
Yes,
that's
we
what
all
we
miss
really
you, Tom.
want.
Tom, we all miss you. But it's fascinating that you guys use that to hang out and discuss conspiracy theories. What, like via DMs, or how did you do that on MySpace?
Yeah, and just like being friends and leaving comments on each other's pages.
Of course. So you met on a forum, then you moved to a more personal MySpace type of communication. Okay.
Yeah, and then MySpace is like where everyone started getting, I think, a lot bigger, and like the 9/11 Truth movement started to get like a social media presence.
Mm-hmm. When was this?
Of, like 2000. I joined MySpace in 2006, and it was around then where I started to like meet more people through it. And the 9/11 Truth movement was like very, very heavily involved there. Do you know Luke Rakowski from We Are Change and from the Tim Pool show?
I don't.
Okay, so he like started out there as well. Like I remember him from back in the day. He's like ridiculous right-wing conspiracist now. But yeah, he was on there as well. Like it was such an interesting like hub of truthers. And then obviously we moved to Facebook. That was like the next place. And that's when I think your uncle and your aunt started to get billed by us.
Oh, wow. Okay. How would you do that?
Just by sharing more of this stuff, basically, because now you're See, MySpace, it wasn't your friends were like just people on the internet that were into the same stuff that you were into. Facebook was your actual friends and your actual family, so you start like kind of sharing the stuff that you would have shared in the old places, talking about the same stuff that you normally would like to talk about. And now like I said, like your uncle, your aunts, your cousins, and all these people are seeing it. And like 1 in 10 is getting pilled.
Funny that you say uncle and aunt. I remember
Yeah.
during the pandemic, my Facebook feed was suddenly full of uncles and aunts sharing some ridiculous, like, the hospitals are empty, there is no pandemic sort of posts all of a sudden. And you could
Yeah,
actually
that's it.
feel how, like, droves of people in your life were exposed to this stuff and totally buying it.
Yeah, I'm really surprised, like with the recent rise in, or not even the recent rise now, in QAnon and Pizzagate among like older people. My parents' age.
Yeah.
Like it's just wow. My uncles and my aunts and my parents and like people like that are sharing this stuff. Not personally. My family doesn't share that stuff, but I can see
Yeah.
people that age doing it.
All right. We talked about what happened to your relationships. What about work or keeping a job? If you honestly believe that, like you said, the collapse of civilization is imminent unless you and your friends expose the bad guys, I mean, I imagine at best I would spend my working hours in the toilet on my phone, following world developments and connecting with other conspiracists like 24/7. Did you manage to keep your job, or how did that affect your professional life?
I think I was like a functioning conspiracist, but I kept low level jobs, mate. That was my thing. I just worked in the garage. I was a cleaner at a supermarket, uh, night cleaner. These sorts of like kind of mundane jobs without that much responsibility. Just have to turn up, do the job, and go home. You know,
But you
um,
still have to do the
a lot of the
job.
times I was, yeah, but a lot of the times I like to do jobs that I was left alone on. So,
I see.
like working in a garage, I worked at night. No one else was allowed into the garage overnight, so I could. Same with the cleaning. Like when I used to clean at night, I used to work on my own, and I could like listen to conspiracy stuff all night. Audiobooks or coast to coast radio shows or whatever. And that's what I would do. I would study and do this stuff all the time while I was at work, and I would kind of keep those sorts of jobs. For a little while, I was able to make money off my music, so I didn't have to go to work. So I could spend all my time like making music and looking into this stuff and talking about this stuff. Always was able to keep a job if I needed to keep a job. It didn't. I could keep it on hold and just like not tell anyone about it, not speak to too many people about it, because I know. To me, like after a while that I was in it, I realized a lot of people don't want to talk about this, and I don't think it's my job to wake you up. It's your job. It's your job to wake yourself up. But when you do wake up, come chat to me. You know,
Wow. That's a more advanced that's a more advanced position. You weren't like actively proselytizing. You
not
were
anymore. I tried
okay.
that for years,
I
and
see.
and
I
it
see.
and it backfired. Lots of people don't want to talk about it, and I felt like you know a lot of these conspiracy influencers do say this as well. Like, oh, they're not ready for it yet. You know, um, they go through this thing like cognitive dissonance when you try to speak to them about it, and they're just not ready yet. It's okay. They'll wake up when it's ready. It's time for them to wake up. And I didn't really listen to that at first. I just kind of tried to wake people up, but then I realized, yeah, it doesn't really work. So I'm going to like make my music as like a welcoming party music. So once you're awake, you can come in and, hey, welcome to the party. I'm here to show you around.
The first guide into this world. You shall not pass, but once you pass, I'll be waiting. I'm just wondering, what did an average day look like for you in those days? Did you just log into your laptop and spend, I don't know, 12 hours straight doing online research? Or did you also socialize with like-minded people in real life, attend conferences and meetups, had your music still, other friends like Richard? Or did it monopolize your entire existence in a way? Because it sounds like you still had other stuff.
Yeah, because I had my music, and I had like a small group of friends, say about 3 or 4, that sort of entertained some of the conspiracy stuff. Like maybe all agreed like 9/11 was an inside job. Yeah, there's probably some sort of Illuminati, but they're not all as into it quite as much as I am. But we all hang out because like I was a music producer, and I made like hip hop music, and like say 2 of these guys were rappers. Um, and then my other friend was just like into rap, but he'd like to come over all the time, and we'd all hang out, and I'd make beats and they'd spit, and like we'd press demos and do all that, and talk about conspiracism and whatever, like whatever we're into, or we watch a lecture and kind of debate different things about it with each other. That was like, say that was like, so one of my friends, or my circle of friends, while I was making music and while I was still a conspiracist. Sorry, as well, this is after I leave my band, because I do leave my band like at some point, because like I felt it was unfair. I was picking up like the energy from some of them, that it was unfair for me to talk about some of the stuff I wanted to talk about in my lyrics, because they didn't believe in any of it.
All right. So this stuff started kind of seeping into your music as well.
Yeah, they were cool at first with some of the politics stuff, but once it kind of started getting a little bit more into like Masonic things and different, trying to sort of calling them Satanists or acting like it's rituals and stuff, I think they were kind of a bit like, yeah, like, we're a ska rap metal band, man. We're supposed to have fun. Like, you're bringing it down, So I felt like I should leave and just go do like my solo stuff. So I started making like lots more hip hop, and met some other guys who were rappers, and they wanted to rap on my beats.
I'm sorry, but that's a really funny image of your band, of your ska band, being like, come on, man, you're acting like a depressed bride on your wedding day. Like, come on, we're trying to have fun, and you're talking about Illuminati. Really
Exactly.
Honest in a way, but sorry, but also a little bit humorous. I'm sure it was painful at the time for you, of course, because your band must be everything, right?
Yeah, I know, man, but hey, look, I was grateful for the time that we all had together, and the music that we made, the fun we had, all of that stuff, like the friendships that we had, the trials and tribulations. It was fantastic. Even now, like, I have no regrets about what I've gone through or wasted or whatever. It's like all been about growing and being who I am today. So I loved going through that band, and then I loved taking everything I learned from being in a band and being the front man to the next stage, the next stage in my life, which was being a solo artist and a producer, and like much more of a truth activist, and actually starting to go, like you said, to conferences, protests, and playing gigs like on my own to rooms of like 5 or 6 people.
I heard you say a couple of times now that you became a truther, but what exactly did you believe at the height of your journey into this stuff? I mean, there's still a world of difference between someone who thinks 9/11 was an inside job and someone who believes the Earth is flat.
like you said, the 9/11 truth stuff is then basically an event conspiracy, and then there's a systemic one, and then there's the grand one, and the grand one is everything, every system is actually part of it, not just one. And basically, I thought that the entire world was run by a network of secret societies and cults. They basically controlled every facet of life. They controlled governments, they controlled media, they controlled the entertainment industry, banking industry, the religious institutions. They even were in control of the black market and the criminal networks. They controlled practically everything. And these were different secret societies. So it was like Freemasons, Rosicrucians, Skull and Bones, even the Bullingdon Club in England, and like just lots of any different secret society. They were all also part of it. These fraternal orders. And like, I called them like cults, essentially. And I thought that there was like a satanic cult, there was a lunar cult, there was a solar cult, a Saturnalian cult. And then I thought that there was also like a paganistic cult, which kind of worshipped lots more to do with Earth. And I thought all of these things were working together basically to rule all of us. They wanted to take over the entire globe. They wanted us all to be their slaves, essentially. That's why I thought that's what I thought the New World Order was.
I wanted to ask you about that next. I keep hearing about the New World Order, but no one's adequately explained it yet. Or maybe I'm just too thick to get it.
The New World Order is always the end goal. It's the end goal
so that's
of like...
Okay, that's the end goal of these secret societies enslaving us.
Yeah.
To what end?
It's their utopia, our dystopia.
I see.
And it's called, in the plan, the agenda is called the New World Order.
So what does this dystopia look like? We're all sort of slaves who are unaware? Is it already here, or? Oh,
the end goal is that we'd be aware. But
we'd be aware that we're slaves.
We'd be totally aware then. Because there would only be 100 million of us left.
I see.
There's going to be there's part of this agenda is that there's a depopulation agenda. So they're trying to depopulate the world so that there's enough of us to control aptly. You know, they can't really control the 7 billion or nearly 8 billion of us now, because the population has boomed. So they got to bring it back down to like about 100 million. And that's enough to make their society work for them. And we'd be totally aware. Be a bit, I guess, like Big Brother.
I've heard this depopulation argument, quote unquote, many times before. Like you said, every time a crisis happens, I keep hearing it from the uncles and aunts on Facebook. But what happens the day after, when after a crisis, even after the pandemic, let's say, this doesn't happen? And, you know, these people keep saying, oh, you know, now it's starting to happen. They're going to depopulate us with the virus or with another war or with, I don't know, starvation, whatever. You've basically hanging everything on this expectation and it keeps failing. How do you justify it?
I think you keep moving a goalpost, and the ultimate goalpost for that kind of thing is, well, that was an exercise. That was a test run. It'll be next time. Next time is coming. You know, that was a test run. Next time.
That is funny.
Yeah, like that's why we were allowed out of the pandemic this time, and the Great Reset didn't happen. They didn't quite do it the way they wanted to do it, right? So it was a bit of a test run. Next time, next time it's coming. 5 or 10 years.
Just
And
you
then,
wait.
yeah, exactly. That's just how it goes, unfortunately. But then, like me, after 15 years of this is happening, this big false flag attack is about to happen, oh, this war is about to happen, this financial crash is about to happen, over and over and over, and I just see that these predictions are never coming true, and these predictions are based on intelligence. So why does it keep failing? Maybe because they're just actually lying to me, you know. And after a while, like I stopped listening to anyone who had some sort of prediction. The amount of times I heard that North Korea was like about to be nuked or about to send a nuke and start World War III, like for like 8 years, I think I kept hearing this, like, this is about to happen, this is about to happen. It just never happens. None of these things ever happen. And I kept pushing the goalpost. And I honestly think for me, it's like I've just pushed far too many, and I just I couldn't push the goalpost any further. I was backed into a corner, and eventually that's why the whole Jenga tower comes down. Like,
We're going to talk about it a little bit more. But I just remember when the pandemic started, when the vaccination started. I was in Berlin, in Germany. I lived there for 10 years. And I remember some people who started subscribing to these ideologies were saying goodbye to me and my friends once they heard that we've been vaccinated. They were like, you're going to die now, you know? I can't kind of keep a relationship with you because I know that you're going to get cancer or whatever and die soon. So they looked really grave and serious. And they actually said, you know, goodbye. But now they're just carrying on like nothing happened. They
Wow.
didn't come back and like, hey, you're still alive? Or they weren't like, hey, maybe I was a bit wrong about that one, you know, my bad. But I saw that they really believed it.
It's a sad state of affairs, this anti-vax propaganda. It's convenient as well for these people. It's so convenient because now anybody who dies, anybody who gets sick at any point, it's just like, oh, were they vaccinated? See, we were right. It's like they're acting like nobody got sick or nobody died before the pandemic happened or before anyone was ever vaccinated. It's really weird, and like I said, it's so convenient for these people who are making money off of pushing it. That's for sure.
In my previous job, I had a colleague who was very dear to me. But once she heard that I am getting vaccinated, she really tried to dissuade me from doing that. And she said, you know, I have a friend who just got vaccinated. And he did a little simple experiment. He took a magnet, and then the magnet just immediately stuck to his shoulder where he was vaccinated, because, of course, they injected him with a lot of heavy metals, which are poisoning him. So she gave me a whole regimen. Once she realized she's not going to be able to convince me, she gave me a whole like anti-metal regimen. Like she's, you know, she tried to help me. She was like, you're going to get vaccinated. I can't convince you into doing otherwise, but at least you can protect yourself, you know, with this anti-metal poisoning regimen. And she was coming again from a good place, you know?
Yeah.
I also remember going to the U-Bahn in Berlin, the metro, and on the day of this huge anti-vax demonstrations in the center of the city, I think 40,000 people showed up. And me and my girlfriend were sitting opposite from two really young girls, I would say 21, 22. And they just started talking to us because they were returning from this protest. And they were like, are you vaccinated? And oh my God, you know, that's really bad and stuff. And they couldn't help themselves. They tried to convert us, you know, and they got more and more worked up out of nowhere. We didn't even respond that much. They were so intent on doing this and on believing in this stuff. And then they started saying really loud that this is like the Nazi times again. That's in the middle of Germany. Then people in the train got really upset once they heard that, and they started shouting at them. But they kept going and shouting back, and it was a quite sobering and scary moment.
Yeah, it's a belief that's really strong. They really truly believe this thing. Like, and if you believed like this is killing people, you would try and tell people like, don't take it. It's going to kill you. This is why I say it's dangerous. This is something that I really have realized it. I didn't realize it back in the day. Didn't realize how dangerous like this would have been. But after the pandemic and after all the anti-vax stuff and after January 6th, I definitely see how dangerous all of this is.
I always wanted to know, is there a place for humor in this world of conspiracies, or is it all serious all the time? Did you and your friends, for example, ever like roast flat earthers or even each other a little bit when you went too wild? Or were you more like, I don't know, a bunch of stiff chaplains or something? Like, no, this is a serious mission. So you gotta get.
No,
it was fun.
Lots of us
as well.
Lots of us had fun with each other. Like at the end of the day, you're just people, aren't you? You're still people. I still have a sense of humor. I feel like the generation of truthers that I come from, like it's a little bit different than the truthers of the 2010s. Like I come from the 2000s, the ones from say 2010s or 2015s onwards, kind of totally different. But the ones like I'm kind of from is there was this like anti-authoritarian streak. There was this like anti-status quo, fringe, alternative kind of people. So those sorts of people are like fun. We're all into weird stuff. We're into weird music. We're into weird comedy, and we all like to. I guess we all like to have fun. Look, let's be fair. Today, like we might not find it funny. All right, a lot of jokes that I see on the internet I don't find funny, but look, they love their memes and they think they're having a hilarious time. So there's your answer right there. Like there is room for laughter and ridicule in the conspirasphere.
But it's usually more aimed at people who don't believe this stuff. Like, look at how ridiculous they are and trolling and stuff.
True. But I guess some of them will make fun of each other. They'll make fun of flat earthers. Are fair game. Everyone makes fun of flat earthers.
Oh, that's funny. That's awesome. What about taking yourself seriously?
I think that's just going to be a personal thing. If you're that type of person or not.
That's fair.
I've always been someone who was able to laugh at himself. I love it.
I just wanted to talk about this as well. On one hand, we have famous conspiracy theorists, like people like Alex Jones, for example, and we're going to talk about them later. But before we do, I wanted to ask, how big is the role of more mainstream celebrities endorsing or at least enabling these views? For example, Joe Rogan has a bigger audience than CNN and is notorious for having conspiracy theorists on his podcast regularly with zero pushback. I can imagine that seeing this kind of endorsement must feel like the ultimate personal validation, no? If this huge superstar is openly discussing these sort of fringe ideas, then surely I'm not going crazy. I'm not mad. And,
Absolutely.
Something must be to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if someone has like an elevated platform and they're talking about it to more people, like it validates it, doesn't it? It does that across the board with society. If no matter who it is, if it's someone who's got a big platform and they're talking about something, everyone kind of pays attention to it and is like, yeah, they believe what I believe. It validates us across the board. So of course, conspiracy world is no different. Probably, I say no different, but probably is more important to them because their belief is so fringe. actually, to be fair. Like if someone big was talking about it, or someone connected, that's the other one. Like if someone sort of connected to it in some sort of way, and they're like, yeah, I'm a World Economic Forum whistleblower, like big celebrity person, Bono. If Bono comes out and he's like, yeah, it's all true, like the conspiracy world would go mad, you know, they'd go, whoa. uh, to be fair, like me and my partner used to write blogs for like about conspiracy stuff, and we had a section on our blog site called Celebrity Whistleblowers, and we would like write little put links to videos or articles or whatever of like say some celebrity talking about like 9/11 truth or anything like up that alley, you know, because it validates the argument.
Were they actually talking about it, or were you trying to find some
Yeah.
sort of clues?
No, really actually talking about it. But it would be people like, say, like KRS-One, the rapper, you know, or Roseanne Barr. Like she was talking about 9/11 truth, like way back in the day. But literally like saying, yeah, 9/11 was an inside job, you know, but it to us, because the entertainment industry and celebrities, they were in on this, right? Like I said, they were controlled. They were controlled, right? So if someone was from that industry and they broke away, that really validates the argument. So someone like Roseanne Barr, she was a big comedian back in the day. Then she became like quite a big comic actress, and for her to break away from it and start becoming like as political as she was and critical of the Bushes and the Iraq War, and then talking about 9/11, like, oh my God, that was gold. That was such validation for us to have someone like that break away from it.
Speaking about celebrities, what's this business with clones? Every once in a while, you're going to hear that somebody's been replaced with their clone. I've heard it with, not recently, I think it was about a year ago, with Avril Lavigne. They're like, oh, she looks different. She's been replaced by a clone. I've heard it about Eminem, I think.
Yeah.
Or
Eminem,
Justin Bieber. Right.
Avril Lavigne. Anne Hathaway. Anne
Anne
Hathaway as well.
Hathaway, wow.
Yeah.
They know how to pick them.
She was like, I think she's like a clone from someone from the 1920s or something as well. Someone famous. I can't remember.
So the rabbit hole goes deeper on Anne Hathaway as well.
Mate, I'm sorry, but I have no answers for you there, because that is one of the things that I started to think. There's a lot of lies in the conspiracy movement. Like I made a post in 2017 saying, like, I think the truth movement has been infiltrated by a load of different psyops. And I think everyone needs to be like aware of these psyops. They're trying to make like our movement look stupid. And like it's these clone things, it's the flat earth stuff and the Mandela effect, like, and the crisis actor hoax thing. These are all psyops put out by the Illuminati to make us look stupid. So
sorry,
like from the get-go, I didn't believe like the clone thing.
What's the crisis actor hoax thing?
Okay, so the crisis actor, it stems from the Sandy Hook shooting first. And it comes out from like Alex Jones and people like this saying that the victims were all crisis actors. All the people that you saw on TV were crisis actors. And now a crisis actor is someone who is paid to pretend that they've been in an event. It could be a terrorist event. It could be like a mass shooting. It could be a natural disaster. But these people are actually hired to like practice what to do if something like this happens. Like there's a real thing, true thing called crisis actors, but the conspiracists act like the victims and everything around these actual events are these things called crisis actors. So the event itself was actually a hoax. And that's like the claims that started kind of coming around in 2012 with Sandy Hook, and then Boston Marathon bombing, and Pulse nightclub shooting, and pretty much everything after that, including like Charlie Hebdo and the Nice attacks in Paris
So
as well.
basically just everything.
Everything after that just became the common narrative. And I felt like that was just garbage. Like I really didn't believe it from the outset. I looked into it at the very beginning because people were talking about it, but straight away I was just like, this doesn't make sense. Like, these events are real. Like, people are really dying, but it's the people who are getting blamed for it that aren't really the people who did it, because it was the government, or it was the secret societies and the cults that were pulling these events off. That was my kind of belief, and I didn't like what the rest of the people were talking about, like acting like none of this actually happened.
I just wanted to ask you the following. The world as I experience it is super messy and chaotic, right? I don't know, 2 days ago, in the morning, I was leaving the apartment, and I had it in my mind that I need to take the keys, of course, of my apartment. And then take the keys, and then I drink some coffee, and then make my bed, and put the clothes on, the shoes on, and I take my backpack and take the keys, and then I leave my apartment. I didn't take the keys. I gotta go back, you know? And I'm sure I'm not the only one that this happens to. On the other hand, you have these theories where shadowy governments or shadowy societies are enacting, coordinating these massive global conspiracies that would take superhuman levels of synchronization and coordination and just organization, where nothing ever goes wrong. Nobody acts irrationally. Nobody gets shit faced and then just starts bragging about controlling the world to their mistress or whatever. I'm just saying we're so messy. And of course, even people who are into conspiracy theories recognize a degree of messiness in their own lives. How come they just suspend it when it comes to their theories? Because, like you said, you still believe that the people who are controlling the world are people.
Yeah, but they have elite privilege as well. So they're on the top of the pyramid. They're born into affluent families. They're always on top. But to be fair, like for me, I can only say, like, the best thing I could say is that I can only talk for myself. I can only explain how I made some of these things make sense to me. And like, the final goalpost I had for how all of this works in tandem is a spiritual element to it. There was like demons controlling things behind the scenes. These elite families were descended from the union of fallen angels and humans. That is basically how I eventually made it work. So because they were the progeny of humans and fallen angels, that means they had like a connection, and they could communicate with the dark stuff, like through rituals, through like Masonic rites, through satanic rites, all of this kind of stuff, black magic essentially. Like, so I had this spiritual element of it that what was like the ultimate puppet master behind everything else. It's how it made things actually kind of work, because humans are messy. Like, and to leave it all up to humans, it's going to mess up. So there's constantly, like, say with a mass shooting, for instance, like I'd play out a scenario in my head where it's actually multiple shooters. It's not this one person who they would use, but it's multiple shooters. And as this is happening, there's like demons and that around these multiple shooters telling them to go left or go right, making sure that I know how ridiculous this sounds, but I'm just trying to be open and just trying to explain it to you as best as I can, like how I made it make
Actually,
sense.
it makes sense, because for me that, yeah, it does make sense in a way that once you hit this obstacle of human messiness, which for me is very convincing, you gotta shift gears and go supernatural a little bit.
So if we go with like here's a good example, like the Columbine shooting. I thought like that was a ritual, and basically it's because 12 students and one teacher was killed. So that was a representative, like, or representation of killing the 12 disciples and Jesus. So how would these two kids pick exactly 12 students to die and one teacher to die and other students to be injured, but only this amount happened? Well, it was due to like demons kind of directing the shooters to like kill the right amount of people and to kill the specific people, shall I say. So I had to have this extra element to make it really work. I tend to not speak too much about like that spiritual element of it, but that's just what I believed.
There finally comes a moment when you begin to question the whole thing, right? I don't know if it was a moment or it was a gradual thing, but after a decade and a half of living in the conspiracy realm, what was sort of the chief reason that sent or caused this pack of cards to finally come tumbling down? Was it, like you said, perpetually moving the goalpost? Was it something else?
2018 is the time when I actually decide I'm just walking away from it all and I need to figure it all out. But the reason why is because from 2015 to 2018, I started seeing a lot more things that completely shattered my belief system. Up until 2015, it was just goalpost moving constantly. But yeah, then 2015 happens, and these things on the main stage basically started to break it down. And basically it's Trump, the rise of QAnon, the Brexit vote, and Jeremy Corbyn taking over the Labour Party. Like these things to me, right, were just, I know they don't make sense, but let me make it make sense for you. At the time, I thought every single election was controlled. Yeah, everyone was rigged. It was totally rigged. It didn't matter what we did. If we went and voted, it didn't matter. The outcome was already planned, and leaders are selected, not elected. It's nothing to do with us. It's all about the cabal. And basically, so with Trump, the plan was that it would be Hillary. Like, she was straight up establishment. We had been talking about her becoming president for like 15 years. Like, oh, she'll be next after Obama. We know this is what's going to happen. Like, it was one of those predictions, you know, because she's like the one that's straight up in line, like as one of the elites. But Trump comes along and he kind of wins with this conspiracy stuff. He starts courting Alex Jones and everything. And I'm just like, this is really weird. What's going on? I was really struck by it and thought, well, this is confusing. But before that, earlier that year, we had Brexit. And Brexit vote as well was another one that the outcome just didn't make sense, because it was essentially breaking up what was the stepping stone to this New World Order. The European Union was a gateway to global control. So why would England break away from it, and why would they set this vote up like this? That doesn't really make sense. And then, like, Jeremy Corbyn takes over the Labour Party, and again, it's like, hey, that's that like anti-war guy who's like totally not in the cults. He's one of those very few stragglers that kind of got into Parliament, and it's kind of their seats don't really matter. But he's taken over, and he's just not establishment. Like, he's like the anti-Blair, you know, like, just didn't make sense. But what I had saw that like made these things happen was actually like people voting, was actually like democracy in action, and seeing people against basically the establishment making these things happen. And well, the establishment couldn't stop it. So these, like I said, these massive votes all changed the power structure in my mind. It changed how much power they actually had, and that, hey, actually they don't control the votes. So that kind of means they don't control both sides, and they don't control the government completely. And yeah, it just started to fall apart in that sense. And I just was like, yeah, I just couldn't make it make sense. And I needed to figure out why it didn't make sense. And I needed to figure out what had actually happened. So by 2018, I just kept seeing more and more people talking. Like, I just felt like all my friends that were truthers, right, were spouting nonsense, but it was stuff that I had believed. But as I was seeing it coming up on Facebook, it just felt like, well, this is rubbish. And I logged off, and I thought, I'm not going on Facebook. I'm sick of seeing this stuff. I don't know what's going on. But I don't think the New World Order is in charge as much as I thought it was. So then, yeah, 2018, I log off, and I start to try and figure out, like, okay, what is actually going on? And I do that away from the community. I don't want to speak to anyone else about it other than my partner. Me and my partner were both like hardcore conspiracists, but we had been talking about this stuff happening, and we both kind of come to this conclusion that they're not really in charge as much as we thought they were. And yeah, like I said, so we spent a bit of time trying to rebuild like a worldview at that time, like what's actually happening here.
Is that painful? What does that process look like?
It's a journey first. So you just kind of going along that journey feeling like you're learning stuff again still. But at some point you're like, whoa, I was like wrong about a load of things here. And that's where it starts getting a bit like painful, shameful even, especially like some of the really, really out there accusatory stuff that I would think about certain people. Mainly like elites being in some sort of satanic cult and possibly ritualistically murdering people, and, you know, abusing children. Like I thought that about these people, and I kind of, yeah, that kind of thing. It would have a shameful thinking like, oh, actually I was like super wrong about that, and I shouldn't have said or thought these things about those people. even if I didn't really say it that much or like accuse them of it on social media or anything, that like I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't that guy. I wasn't out there proselytizing, especially when Twitter comes around and you're in people's faces. I wasn't really doing that. Yeah, it's an interesting time just having to go through all this building again.
During this period of recovery, were there any like siren calls that you experienced of stuff trying to lure you back into this world? I mean, it's 2018.
Yeah.
That's before the pandemic, right? So you just start to get out, and then the pandemic happens, which is another massive eruption of conspiracy ideologies. How did you survive that one without getting sucked back into it?
So from 2018 to 2020, like I'm watching lots of stuff still going on. I'm starting to learn about, like, I wanted to know why I believed what I believed, right? I really wanted to know, okay, where did this conspiracy theory even come from? Who started it? Why did it manifest? You know, and so I kind of start looking into that, and I start looking at how it's like used as manipulation tools by politicians, by political parties over the centuries, basically. And yeah, I start to see that actually playing out in the real world there. And I start to see politics and like I said, the rise of QAnon, people like Trump really embracing conspiracies, Nigel Farage going on to InfoWars, and seeing like really, really nasty people like embracing conspiracies and using them. You know, so that whole time I'm starting to like really I dislike the movement, see where it's coming from, see why they're using it, and seeing that it's like this populist message. And that's kind of what's really appealing. That was what was appealing to me. It was like putting these elites are in charge of, you know, they're manipulating and controlling the rest of us. And that's exactly the grand conspiracy. So I'm like, I'm starting to understand how the whole conspiracy thing works. And I'm just keeping an eye on everybody talking about this conspiracy stuff. So the pandemic hits, right? And I can just see, my eyes are open to those manipulation tactics. And I could see this was a replay of like swine flu or foot and mouth disease or any of these other things that we had gone through before, SARS and MERS. Like they're saying the same thing, but it's just transplanted, you know, and then obviously lockdowns and certain things like that come along. And I'm like, I could just, mate, it was such like familiar language, but just transplanted on a completely different thing. And I felt like I'm vaccinated against conspiracies. Like when new ones come out, it's just like I've already been vaccinated against them. If they just like resemble other conspiracies, just transplanted onto a different thing, I can just see it. I mean, there was a moment, like you asked, there was a moment like where I thought, okay, I need to ask myself an important question here. Was I wrong? Is this what we've been waiting for? Is this the depopulation plan's going to come out? Is this the global lockdown? Is this the all real here? One? Is this it? Yeah, no. It's actually a genuine virus. I can see all the countries are not actually in lockstep. They're all doing whatever the hell they want to do. No one's following the UN. No one's following the WHO. No one's following exactly what they're supposed to do. Okay, yeah, like there's no control here whatsoever. Right. This is actually chaos. And I just kind of
like we said, messiness at work. Right. So Italy, lots of people dying. Sweden, absolutely. Completely open. Some countries, strict lockdowns. It's just
just a complete mess. No one's doing what they're supposed to do, but somehow the conspiracy theorist people are all saying that it's all in tandem and stuff. And I was like, are we not watching the same show here? Like, what's wrong with you? You know, and I could just see, mate, like the whole conspiracy movement was just lying about stuff still. And it wasn't how it was all playing out. And so I didn't fall back down like that rabbit hole. Every once in a while, there's something that kind of, I feel like it's learned behavior where I kind of think, I see a Freemason sign in a movie. And I'm like, oh, Freemasons. Like, is that? No, of course not. It's not. It's just a symbol because it's the National Treasure movie. Of course, it's all about Freemasons.
What's the best way to reach somebody who is deep into this stuff?
I think if you're a friend or family member, you're probably the best person to do it. I feel like people on the internet, strangers, professionals, probably not the best people to like personally pull someone out of a rabbit hole, because it could be like we're met with such suspicion. This is something I've learned. Like I wanted to do that. I wanted to be the guy that would help pull you out of a rabbit hole, but I've realized the reaction I get is mainly like I must be an agent or something like that, or an actor, or just disingenuous. You know, not really genuine, because you know, once you wake up, you can't unsee it. But look, I think it's friends and family members who are the real ladder out of the rabbit hole. And you can be that if you've got the energy, if you've got the time and you got the energy to do this, because it's a hard job, but I think you're the ones to do it. And you got to do it with compassion. You got to do it with understanding. You got to remind them, like, okay, our relationship is built on love. It's built on trust. And no matter what we say, like, we always got to remember that part. So we disagree with each other over different things. It doesn't matter. We love each other because we're friends. We're family. We've been, you know, brothers or sisters or whatever for past 20 years. So let's be cool to talk about it. It's a safe space. No matter what you believe, let's talk about it. It's a safe space. It's all good. The other thing is that you need to validate their concerns, because like we've said before, if these things are real, like, of course they're going to want to talk about it. Of course they're going to want you to understand that this crime is happening. So understand that they are coming from a good place, and that concern that they have is valid.
Right.
The outcome might not be the truth, but that concern is valid. So you have to remember that. And the other thing is you need to brush up on that conspiracy theory. You need to understand what it's about, why it's believable. You know, if you want an entry level to that, I suggest like checking out Mick West's book, Escaping the Rabbit Hole. That's like a brilliant starting step, you know, to chemtrails, 9/11 conspiracy theories, and some anti-vaccine conspiracy theories. And it kind of gives you a really good method of speaking to people about it. It's definitely the number one book I recommend for that side of it. And then obviously once you've gone into that, and you need to learn about other conspiracy theories, because they might be into the World Economic Forum stuff. They might be talking more about Jeffrey Epstein or Pizzagate. Then self-plug, obviously, you got to come check out my podcast. Some dare call it conspiracy, because we'll do that exact thing.
Do that. Yes.
Yeah? We show you what that conspiracy theory is. We explain where it comes from, and we explain why it's believable. And then we explain what is false about it, why it's false, where that falsehood comes from. You know, and so that's like a bit more of a deep dive than, say, the Mick West book. So, but definitely start there, and you want to expand your knowledge into more of them. Then you got to like come to places like that, like Some Dare Call It Conspiracy. But you have to learn. You have to learn about this. You have to know what it is they believe and why they believe it, especially why they believe it. If you really want to bring them out, that's the key.
Invaluable advice, really, because probably for the most of us, our first instinct is to become confrontational when faced with this stuff. And you're like, come on, how the fuck can you believe that some elites are wearing special type of shoes to accommodate for their reptilian limbs or whatever, you know? Like,
but this is
you
the
want to
thing,
attack.
right?
Yeah.
But this is what I got to tell you. This is why friends and family can do this, right? Because you know how far you can push them. You know whether you can say, "Oh, fuck off, come on." If you can be jokey with them, you know exactly how far you can push them, and a stranger doesn't. You know, so just keep them, push them at the right place. You know them. At the end of the day, you know them. You know how to interact and engage with them. Some will respond better to jokes, some won't. But you know that. That's my biggest advice. Like, you're the person who knows this.
Light roasting amongst friends goes a long way. Okay, we have to wrap up. I took a lot of your time. This conversation is so interesting and fascinating, and just I want to keep going on forever, but I understand that you have to go to sleep also eventually.
Yeah.
Now,
sadly,
I went through your Twitter profile before the interview and saw that you engaged with one of the most well-known conspiracy theorists out there. We mentioned him before, the reptilian guy, David Icke. Why did you choose to kind of challenge him openly in such a direct way? By the way, I saw that you got way more likes than he did when he actually replied to you. So people are listening to what you're saying, even on his Twitter page.
Yeah. I've been challenging like conspiracy influencers since pretty much the day I started going on Twitter. I mean, I don't do it every day, but I challenge them all the time, and I get blocked all the time. I don't abuse them. I generally don't abuse them. Okay, like maybe there's about 3 or 4 that have blocked me because it was a little bit of a touchy joke, but it's never generally like, oh, you're an idiot, and it's like some kind of bantery joke that maybe pushed it a little bit too far. So I generally do challenge these people. I prefer to challenge the influencers over a genuine believer in just someone who's got 500 followers or someone that's just normal. I don't go looking for those people. If I interact with them or I retweet them or something like that with a bit of a bantery joke, it's normally because they've commented on my stuff. So you've come to me, so I'll retweet you and we can all laugh at you. It's fine. But generally, I will seek out the influencers and I will challenge them over stuff. And yeah, so David's one of I call him the 4 horsemen of my apocalypse. Now, apocalypse means the revealing, to lift a veil. So those are the 4 people that kind of tended to wake me up. It was a guy called Jordan Maxwell, William Cooper, Alex Jones, and David Icke. These are the 4 guys. So I've kind of come to a point where I think that they're all charlatans and they've all lied to me and they've all manipulated people and their information is bad and they all need to pay or take responsibility for the bad influence that they've put on other people.
Yeah.
So Icke is one of the guys that I like to, I don't know, challenge a bit, but I also kind of like to make fun of him a bit. And that's what happened here. So he posted something that it was just some rubbish about like the truth is our only tribe or something, and I kind of just quoted it like with a gif of him being laughed at on Terry Wogan, they're laughing at you gif, and he for some reason he retweeted that and said like only morons are laughing now. So I thought, oh, look, I got a David Icke retweet. And I didn't notice it at first either. I just noticed in my notifications I had a lot of David Icke fans saying something to me. I was like, oh, they must not like that GIF. But it's because he had retweeted it. So I thought, all right, he's obviously retweeted it to say something because I got a bit of a following. A lot of people like my joking and have retweeted it and liked it and commented and everything on that GIF. So it obviously caught his attention. All right, maybe I will use this opportunity to tell him exactly how I feel. Exactly what I feel he's done to me. I just thought, why not? He probably won't see this one, but he saw the last one, so that's cool. But I'm going to say this because this is what I really feel. And so I did. I just thought, yeah, I'll retweet that and I'll list out and tell you, like, you are a manipulator. I followed you for 15 years. I used the word disciple because it's a bit of a hyperbole, but you know, I followed the guy for so long. I respected him. I thought he was like one of the top dogs. I didn't think everything the guy said was 100% accurate, but he's one of the top ones, man. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was talking about. But I think he's a top charlatan, and I'm going to tell you, I think you're a top charlatan, and I'm going to, like, I'm pissed off, man. I am pissed at what you led us all down the wrong path with your information. You acted like you were trustworthy, and yeah, of course, I make my own choices, but I only make my own choices based on the information I have. And I felt your information was the right one. So I followed that. And I wasted a lot of my life, and I just thought, I'm going to tell you. So I did. And obviously, like you said, he even responded to that by practically saying, hey, it's your own fault for believing my bullshit.
Do you think people like David Icke actually believe what they're saying, or do they know what they're peddling is absolute bullshit and it's just a cynical racket for them?
Yeah,
or is it a mix of both?
It's definitely a mix of both. It's definitely a mix of both, and it's trying to figure out what he does and doesn't believe, like what's true or what's not. The thing is I feel like we've broke down quite a few of his claims on our podcast, like from the reptile stuff to the things he says about Bohemian Grove or other goddesses or whatever, and turns out to be like completely factually incorrect. Like, and if he's going to push things that are factually incorrect, and then I'm not talking about whether or not the queen or someone was a shape-shifting reptile, because I can't prove that either way, right? But there's other facts that he says that are just completely not true whatsoever. So I feel like if you've pushed yourself as this amazing researcher who really pushes for the truth and everything, why are you telling like actual lies about different things here? Like, it seems like you're spinning a narrative, you're making stuff up. So I don't think you believe that if you know that it's not true. You know, so there's that mix there. I think same with Alex Jones. I think, to me, I think he believes more of the politics conspiracies than he does when he says like Hillary Clinton smells of sulfur or something. I think that's just him being an idiot and talking
at
hyperbole.
The same time, it's so hard to believe that he believes any of this stuff, because he's selling some sort of fucking vitamin pills on the side. He tells you yeah, Hillary Clinton smells like, what did you say, sulfur,
Sulfur. Yeah.
But here's
She's a
my
demon,
vitamin.
you see.
Right, but here's my vitamin package that you can get for $99,
which are full of 99% sulfur.
Touche. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one to work out what people believe or don't believe. It's kind of as hard to find to figure out someone's true intent.
Yeah,
you don't know. Only that person knows 100%. Everyone else has to try and work it out.
Just have 2 really quick questions.
Go for
it. What kind of DMs are you getting these days? You said already that people sometimes accuse you that you're a paid actor yourself, a paid shill, or whatever they say. How do you withstand that? And I can imagine that if you're going after these sacred cows of the conspiracy world, you must get some angry people writing to you.
I deal with each one differently. All right. A lot of the time I ignore. I don't even bother. I just like scroll past. In my head, like I'll see something, I'll be like, yeah, your mum. Skip past. I'll read another one.
Never fails.
Yeah, I just say stuff like that to in my head, like, yeah, whatever. Like, okay, like I care what you say. Okay, whatever. Another smart ass remark. Goodbye. And I just will ignore it. Other times I will think, it depends on how sassy I feel. And if I feel up for it, I feel like I'm in a good mood, I'm going to retweet you and say something smart ass about you just because it's fun. You're just there to troll me, right? Why should I take you serious? Why should I do the debunk or the conversion or the conversation or the discourse with you? You're just here to troll. So karma, I'm going to troll you back. Let's have fun. But then sometimes, I was talking to my partner the other day about this, and it's your conscious mind, your ego, yourself, you're reading these things and being, yeah, whatever, who cares, whatever, you're an idiot, yeah, suck my balls, your mom, da da da, I don't care what you're saying, all that, you're saying this, but it's on a screen, right? It's really there in writing. And all the while that's being logged in your brain. Your brain's not forgetting this stuff. It's taking it in. And after a while you think, I've just been called an asshole 17 times and I haven't even had my first coffee of the morning yet. I haven't even gone to work yet. I'm not there yet. How do you really process something like that? Sometimes it does makes you feel shit and you don't realize why. I'm feeling I'm in a bad mood. Oh, probably because of that happened or whatever. It does affect, but look, I just got to go. I just got to go with it. I just got to keep pushing and just trying not let it get to me. Because at the end of the day, who cares? I saw this great graffiti one day and it's always stuck with me. And it was just around the time that I started to make content and be public. And it said, stop trying to be liked by everyone. You don't like everyone. And I was like, that's absolutely true. I don't like everyone. So not everyone has to like me. Fine. I'm gonna have people who don't like me, who don't want to have a good conversation, who just want to troll, whatever. I tend to block people now. I've had enough of being called a wanker before I've had my breakfast. So I block people every once in a while. If I've had a bit of a viral tweet that's attracted a lot of negative attention, I'll go on lockdown for a few days. Just to till my tweet is out of the algorithm. Because I tend to, my experience is, if I do one of those viral tweets, about 2 or 3 days afterwards is when the really nasty people come for some reason. It's as if it gets picked up at some other point, and that's when they come. So after about 2 or 3 days after something like that, like so after David Icke, like yesterday I locked down because a few more nastier ones started coming around. So I kind of locked down, and at that point I kind of used the option to kind of block people, remove followers, and clean up that timeline.
Last question. I asked Mike Rothschild a similar one. What's the funniest or the most silly conspiracy theory you've ever heard of?
Me.
Can you elaborate, please? What does that mean?
That I'm an actor, that I'm a paid psyop, that I'm this psyop, and course. I'm a conspiracy. I am become conspiracy, and it's
a crisis actor.
The funniest thing to me. It is. And every time someone says it to me, it convinces me or solidifies that idea in me that, yes, conspiracy theories are, well, conspiracism is bullshit. This whole thing is is rubbish, and it's not based on any actual research here. It's just conspiracy claims. And I'm proof that that doesn't exist. Excellent. I find it hilarious.
That's a good way to finish a conversation about conspiracy theories. Brent, this was such an unbelievably amazing conversation. Thank you for being so open about this stuff. Thank you for sharing your journey. Where can people find your podcast? Spotify, Apple Pods, all reputable streaming services, I gather. Are you on YouTube as well?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm everywhere, every platform. A bit hit and miss with YouTube because of some of the topics we talk about. Like, I don't know, sometimes it gets flagged for the wrong reason. But yeah, every platform, we're on there. Best place to go is somedarecallitconspiracy.com, and then you'll get the list of every platform that you need. Basically, all our social media sites, every single thing is there. You can follow me and Neil wherever. But yeah, somedarecallitconspiracy.com, and you'll find us.
Brent, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oi! Thank you for listening to the episode. If you've enjoyed it, please subscribe and follow on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. As always, eternal glory and gratitude to my producers who are supporting this show on Patreon. The kings and queens, Gordan, Jurechuk, Lorenzo, Veronica, Mila, Carmen, and Taichi. Without you, this pod would not have been possible at all. If you'd like to become a certified Tovarish or Tovarishica of the show too, head to Patreon, find Smart Cookies podcast on there, and become one. It's as simple as that. Thank you.